Well, my name is Leonard Bailey. I've been a surgeon here on the faculty for quite some time, actually since 1976. One of the really fun and interesting things that the originators of the program in heart and lung surgery here at Loma did and have done ever since is to work abroad and spend some time at least in developing countries. Most recently, in the last couple of years, we've been to Nicaragua and we've been to Egypt a couple of times as examples of that. Well, back in the, quite some time ago, in the early 80s, Nancy, my wife, and I visited China at the Fuwai Hospital in Beijing, and were asked to participate in surgery there and to do a bit of teaching for about a month or two, as I recall. And then we came home, and other representatives from our department went back to China, went to different places in China. Ultimately got so connected with China that we got involved in staffing and building a hospital in Hangzhou. It's called Sir Run Shaw Hospital, which has expanded remarkably in the time since it was initially built. We've always had, I think as a group, a certain fondness for the group in Beijing. The Fuwai Hospital, I understand, I haven't been back in decades now, but the old original hospital has probably been replaced. It's just a huge organization there now. When I was there, the Beijing hospital, the Fuwai hospital, is responsible for most of cardiac surgery throughout the country, if you can imagine, throughout the country of China. And so they had people come in from outer provinces and spend time. The chiefs in Beijing would go to these outer provinces and spend time to try to get teams of heart and vascular surgeons up and running all through China. Now, at the same time, we were evolving a program here at home, and the numbers of faculty and the numbers of operations done, the types of surgery done, were all expanding here as well. And so starting in, as I recollect, sometime in the mid-80s, sometime after the Baby Fay operation, where a baboon heart was used as a transplanted heart for a newborn baby, we had a series of young Chinese scientists come and join us for sometimes a year or two. We would do research together and publish together. And then became a sort of litany of Chinese fellows that came to Loma Linda and spent time more, perhaps some of them more on the clinical side. Occasionally somebody would be interested in the laboratory. Until I began to lose track of the numbers of fellows that spent time here. Now, it's my understanding that some of those fellows are here again. Like me, they've probably aged a bit. I would imagine most of them are still active and doing what they're doing. They've gone back and become terrifically accomplished people. I hear about them being vice president of this and director of that. it's just hard to imagine servicing the population of China in any realistic way, but these young people and others like them in China are just doing a remarkable job. China's on a roll these days. It's no longer the developing country that I visited, where the streets were being swept with homemade brooms. Folks were still living in tents sometimes along the streets of Beijing. As we'd run around the city in the early morning hours before surgery, I got very well acquainted with streets that we'd never ordinarily see, I suppose. But all that's changed. That city, I'm told, is just as modern as any city on the planet now. I have to use my imagination to conjure up how it was versus how it is today. Now, not that all of the development is completed. There's lots more to do. But in the area of healthcare and medical science, and particularly in my area of cardiac surgery, China is in a contributing role now, as opposed to so much of a learning role. Partly they're in a contributing role because they're exposed to so much of the sorts of heart disease in children, babies, that sort of thing I deal with today and my partners here. These days we learn from the Chinese. In some ways they've moved out in front of us, ahead of us, particularly in less invasive ways of doing surgery, using catheter-based surgery of some sort or another. I've been amazed, really. One of my partners just went over there and spent a little time in China, and he did a little surgery and he did some lecturing and this and that. When he came back, he thought he'd learned more than he delivered. And I suspect it'll be that way for some time to come now. We're delighted that we're partners with China, that we are part of China's inner family, if you will, and that they're part of ours, that we've had this historic link with one another. And it should be a very fun evening saying hi and seeing some of these fellows back again. Yes, I count myself a Christian, certainly do. I was raised with those beliefs. I still hold firmly to those beliefs. I was raised to believe that the Creator is in charge of us from the beginning. That we appear on the planet really as a gift from the Almighty. And as such, we seem to have an incredible responsibility for service, to give back, which is part of Christian values, I think. I don't know that you need to necessarily be a Christian to give back, because over the years I've encountered all sorts of other sorts of beliefs and faiths, and many of them hold that same value of participating with one another for the collective good, if you will. But every day, you know, we just finished putting a new heart in a brand new born baby across the street here. And if you don't need a more bold example of God's caring for those of us on the planet, or man rising to to their best than this issue of heart transplantation. It's in every way a miracle. Without getting too scientific and trying to define a miracle and all that, it just is. It's just one of those things, a coming together of a misfortune somewhere up north, miles and miles and miles from here, that turns into joy here in the community at Loma Linda, is just miraculous. People call it a perfect miracle in some ways. So we get reminded every day of our faith and our belief in God and a loving, almighty Savior on the planet. We understand that we're just participants. If your faith is a little shaky or something, you need to come across the street, we'll stiffen you back up again.
Oh, not me. I'm a believer.
Yeah, this is, of course, what this community embraces. It's part of why, over the years, I've never been too inclined to be anywhere else. And wherever we go, we come back here, and we're always glad to be back in this community, in the embrace of this community. We've been to some pretty interesting places. Some have left their lives abroad in service, and some have been able to get home. Our former chief of cardiology here, Dr. Roy Jutzi's brother, had gone to China to be of service as a pathologist, I think, and encountered a problem with his mitral valve over there and did not survive. But I would imagine that he would have no regrets.